Let's look at the business question for number two. Your manager wants you to generate a report that shows the revenue for all customers. He has given you the calculation of revenue as quantity multiplied by price. He also wants you to show the sales order ID. So this business question is more like the same thing we had in the first business question. So all we just have to do is still maintain the first name, the last name, but the new thing we're going to be introducing here is the revenue, which is the quantity multiplied by the price. So I'm going to copy all this here and paste here just to break it down. And the two other columns that are coming from a different table entirely, which is going to be the order quantity and the unit price coming from the sales order details table. So here I would say order quantity. Order quantity is coming from the sales order details table, and the unit price, which is going to come from the sales order details table. Right, now for these two tables, we will then now give them an alias of let's say SOD. So the two columns coming from the sales order header, from the sales order detail table, will then now be called SOD. So here we would say SOD. Now, since it is a new table entirely, let's pull up the ERD diagram and we can see that the order quantity and the unit price is coming from the sales order details table, which have a connection with the sales order header table. So what that means is we're getting data from three different tables: the customer table, the sales order header, and the sales order detail table. However, we need to specify which column would join the two tables together, which is the sales order header and the sales order details. Now going back to our object diagram. So here I have my databases. I'm going to expand it on the system database. I go to master and tables, and in my tables I have my sales order detail table, which I expand here. Go to columns here, and I can see that I have the sales order ID as a primary key and also as a foreign key. Now, if I also go to the sales order header table here, if I click on columns here, I also have the order ID as a picky, so I can conveniently join these two tables together on the sales order ID. So here I would say relationship between SOD and SO is equals to sales order ID. Now, what this means is I can then now write my SQL query. Since I'm still making use of this SQL query here from the first business question, I could just copy the entire thing here and paste here. But now in this case, what I'm going to add in my select clause would be the multiplication of the order quantity and the unit price as revenue, right? So here I could put a comma here and say, open a bracket and say SOD dot order quantity multiplied by SOD dot unit price, and all this will then now come as revenue. Okay, now these are coming from sales LT dot customer C join sales LT dot sales order header as SO. So what I will then now do is I then now add the new table and say join sales LT here dot sales order detail, and this will be called SOD. So I'll say as SOD, and I'm joining them on SOD dot sales order ID, right, is the same as SO dot sales order ID. Okay, SO.sales order ID. Now with this, I'll then now be able to get data from 3 different tables. So I can run the entire thing here, select the entire thing here and run and execute. I then now have the revenue. But now take note how, I have multiple customers, right? Having multiple revenue. So what I can do here is I can then now find the sum, right? And for the fact that I have an aggregation in my select phrase, I will then now introduce a group by clause here. And what am I grouping by? I'm grouping by every other thing in my select statement that is not receiving, the aggregation. So I'm going to group by first name. I'm going to group by last name. I'm also going to group by the customer ID. I will group by the sales order number. And also I would group by order date. And great, we are done with this. So I can then now run the entire thing again and execute. So now this then now gives me the true picture of the revenue for each of the individual customers. Now you might want to go ahead by either sorting it in ascending or sorting it also in descending order. Now, what if you wanted to know the actual product that this customer's bought, right? You want to know the product that this customer's bought. So what that means is I then now have to add the name of the product coming from the product table, and we can see that there is a relationship between the sales order detail and the product table, right? So I need to add the name of the product. So I could just go back to my select clause here and just squeeze in the product here. So I could just say p.name, right? And I would come here. I don't need this comma here, sorry. Then I would come here and just say join sales LT dot product. SalesLT.product, and I'll call that as P. And where am I joining them on? I'm going to join them on P.product ID, right, is equals to SOD.product ID. Now remember that I need to add that product name in my group by clause. So here I could just say P.name. Now, for you to confirm the relationship between the product table and the sales order details table, so I have the sales orders, I have the sales order details table here, right? I have the product ID as a foreign key, and I have the product table here, and I have the product ID as a primary key. So that is where we are getting this from, right? Now, if I then now highlight everything here, if I highlight everything here to the last and execute, I think I missed something here by select. Okay, so if I everything here and execute, I then now have the products, I have the revenue, when it was ordered, the order number, the customer ID, and the customer name.